Hello, right, so we're going to take these flameless battery-powered infrared remote control candles and make them smart. So they're basically just a simple LED that flickers. It looks like it's getting bigger and smaller, but that's just the camera. So what I need to do first is remove the battery, put that in a safe place because they're quite high current, them things, and then I'll put that back on there. And then they're not glued or anything, so you can just pop it open. And then all we need to do is unscrew these two screws, like so. And then we just need the LED. So keep the sleeve on these because it makes it easier to work out. So what I normally do is I just normally bend that there. Now your sleeve is your positive. So what I'm going to do, you'll see why in a minute, is I'm going to cut the negative down a little bit, pull the sleeve down, and then just snip off a bit off the end of that. So I've got the LED longer leg with the sleeve on it, which is positive, and negative, which is the short one. So bit of solder on these before we start. So we're just going to dab a blob on there, dab a blob on positive, put that to one side a second. Now I'm using these things, which are 2-pin, they've got a little locking mechanism there. So keeping the holes for the power splice, I'm using the ones with the pins. And I'm just going to dab a little bit of solder. Now I'm going to cut down the positive, that there, snip that off, give that a little dab of solder, nice big dollop there. And before I do that, I want a couple of pieces of heat shrink. So a couple of those, and then heat shrink on there, and heat shrink on there. So let's do the positive. And I've left that a little bit longer so that they don't line up. So it just makes it easier for them to not touch. So if I can get this right, hold them quite close. Dab them on with the solder. Lovely. And then I'm just going to overlap those to about there. And then using just an ordinary lighter, just give that a little wipe over, just to hold everything in place. Like so. So now I've got a little LED on a lead, ready to go back in my candle. And I'm going to hot glue gun that. Okay, so while we're waiting for the hot glue gun to warm up, I'm just going to snip a couple of little, just above, I don't know if you can see it there, just above the ridge, these ridges, you'll see a lighter bit there. And I'm just going to pop that off and cut it. So that basically gives me an exit for the cable once I put the bottom on there. And if you line up, you'll see the two screw holes there. If you line up, it gives you a nice little thing there. Or you can come at the bottom, depending how you're mounting it. So we'll just pop that back out. Right, check the glue gun. That'll do. So basically what I'm going to do is that hole in the centre, I'm going to fill it up with a little bit of glue. I'm going to take the LED and I'm going to push it in and then pull it out a little bit, and then to hold it just grab a crocodile clip and leave it like that. So we'll come back to that in a minute. So once that's cured, we can just get in there and just get rid of any stringy bits like that. Give it a little bend, the crease like that, line that up, and then pop that back in. And there you go, one candle. So 5 more to do, which I won't show you because, yeah. And then next we got the D1 mini board, and I make a little Vero board up. So basically I'm coming off of, you'll see in the code, but I'm using D1, D2, D3 on that side, and 5, 6 and 7 on the other side. So I'll just add that in there. Now Vero board, obviously you've got the strips, so the strips are going horizontal, which means you need to cut the tracks there. I just use the drill bit manually, just zip, zip, zip. So we'll take the reds off of GPIOs, and then grounds, which is the second one up on this side. What I've done here, and if you can see that there's a little copper wire there, and that goes up to the top track here. I've left one just to keep it isolated, and then these are where all your blacks terminate to. A little bit of glue just to secure it, keeps them, the wires are quite thin inside on these, so you can keep them nice and secure there. Next, well, let's get to controlling the thing. So now we've got our 6 candles connected to our D1 Mini, and it's all ready to be controlled. Now I've given you the code on my GitHub page. You'll find a link in the description. Let's just run through that first. So ESP code. Now the one I'm using the board at the moment is candles back. I've used the same code for all of them. It's just different names. So what I'm doing is a monochromatic light with an output. So the first one is D1, as we said. 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 6, and 7. It's PWM signals, the software PWM, and then the ID, and then the frequency. Now I'm using substitutes here, which you will find. So the ones I'm using are an alpha of 90, an intensity of 4, default transition, and a frequency of 750. And here, let's go back to this one. These come in here. So your default transition is in the light, and then alpha and intensity are the flicker effect, and then the output frequency is on each one of these PWMs. It defaults at 1000, so I put mine down to 750. I'll probably put it up to 1000. So that's basically it. So upload that to your D1 Mini, and then we'll look at the controlling it. So first of all, I'm using a slider on my home page, which is this thing here. Simple slider thing. I'm using steps of 10 because, yeah, there's no reason to go ones or anything like that. Call it candles, and then that comes in here. Now, to get this to control the candles, I use Node Red. So here's that candle slider that we see on the front end. Now this will give obviously a 0 to 100, and then basically what I do here, rather than having an on and an off node for each one of my candles, I don't give it a service. I send the service through a function node. As you can see, I've done it here with my other lights. I'm basically taking the input, and then there's no service on here because I send the service via the function node. So this function node does something slightly different. Because I'm getting a number value from here, I have to, if statements, I'm ifing on that one. So the first line here says, if the message payload, which is the input, is more than 0, then the service output of turn on with data, brightness percentage, Now the brightness percentage that it's sending is the message payload that it receives. So I'm sending a payload dot brightness percentage with a number behind it, and the number is what this is sending out, 0 to 100. I'm also sending an effect of flicker. So that turns it on, and then if the message is less than 1, so 0, send a service turn off. So that basically goes all the way through to all of the candles. Now just to mix it up a little bit, and I'll show you later, I put a random node, a delay node, and I'm doing a random between 1 and 2 seconds, and all these are the same. They don't all come on at the same time, and they don't all go off at the same time as well, which is quite nice to see. So because I've got 3 sets of candles, I've got all 3 of my sets in here. So this is the first candle of each set, and here we have the second candle of each set, and so on and so forth. And like I say, no service here because I'm not using the toggle turn off or turn on, because I'm sending that service via the function node here. Let's have a look at it. So here's my candles. I'll turn the light off here. So at the moment they're all off, and if I turn it on to 50%, you'll see them pop on one at a time. And if I change the brightness, they'll just randomly pop on and off, or change the brightness. Nice little effects. I normally have mine default to about 50 when they come on, and then turn them off, set that down to 0, and they'll just pop off one at a time, which is quite nice.